None of this shit so long. Squad on my back and I better hold on. Writing my lines and I'm making my songs. City is mine just like King Kong.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Insider Provider channel. Today I'll be explaining how Leeds could stay in the Premier League this season and go on to relive past success in the top flight of English football. Before we get into that, it would really mean a lot if you could hit the like button and subscribe to see more content like this. Marcelo Bielsa's time in Leeds has been very successful, having come in third the first time of asking with an unfortunate playoff run and going up to the Premier League as champions the very next season. Bielsa plays very heavily possession-based football, which might not suit the Premier League coming up from the Championship. The gap in quality from the Championship to the Premier League is massive, and that's why we see teams come up from the Championship and straight back down again year after year. Leeds may have dominated in the Championship, but for them to outplay a Premiership side is a completely different beast altogether. The advantage Leeds have is that they are very strong at counter-attacking and attacking down the wings, which is typically the main source of goals for recently promoted teams. A squad is only as good as their weakest link, and when looking to bolster a squad they need to address their weakest position. Patrick Bamford was Leeds' top goal scorer with 16 in 43 games. Considering he's the main man up top for a title-winning side, that is definitely not enough contribution to warrant a starting position in the Premier League side. The old saying is true that goals win games, and I can't imagine Bamford bagging enough goals to keep Leeds afloat next season. To add strength to this statement, Bamford has played 27 times in the Premier League and has only scored one goal. A striker that could come in and make a significant improvement straight away would be Ollie Watkins of Brentford. If Leeds were to go in for Watkins, Brentford really couldn't have a leg to stand on when negotiating a price. It's clear to see Watkins is ready for the big leagues, having scored 26, the most in the division, and surely will push for a move if Leeds come in for him. Watkins is a complete forward, which means he can do it all with his strength, finishing ability, and direct movement into the channels. As I previously mentioned, Watkins was the Championship's top goal scorer, but he also makes 1.5 key passes per 90, also including other teammates from the wings, which in the case of Leeds would be the likes of Jack Harrison and Helder Costa. Another asset Watkins has is that he wins 2.3 aerial duels per 90. Each skill set I've mentioned will heavily come into play when starting up front for Leeds, as they play a 4-1-4-1 formation that singles out the striker, often leaving them stranded up front when Leeds aren't dominating possession. But if you have a striker like Watkins that can do it all, it limits and reduces situations where he gets isolated up front. With Brentford now remaining in the Championship for another year, they'll have to let go of players like Watkins, so I could see Brentford having to let Watkins go for around £20 million, and if I were to make a prediction on how he would do this season, I'd guess he'd score around 12 goals and make around 4 assists. Moving on to another possible source of problems Leeds could have next season, which is chance creation and midfield strengthening. Star player Pablo Hernandez is now 35, which means he won't be able to physically compete in the Premier League throughout the entire season. The Spaniard was Leeds' second top goal scorer and top creator last season, and overall made Leeds tick, completing the most passes from a midfielder or attacker in the side. He also made the most key passes in the side, showing how important he is, and the fact he is getting so old is potentially very worrying for the Ellen Road faithful. Bielsa needs to bring in a player that will help Hernandez in the creative department and even replace him when his tiring legs come to the forefront of his worries. We've recently seen a successful move from the Liga NOS to the Premier League in Bruno Fernandes, showing that the switch can be done if you find the right talent. Hernandez operates from the right wing and in centre mid, so to find the adequate replacement they must be able to fill both roles, and Bruno Tabata of Portimonense does that precisely. Tabata is very off the radar, but when looking to improve a squad you have to take small gambles, hoping that they could end up good. And when looking at Tabata's stats, he could be something special. Tabata is a 23-year-old Brazilian right winger that's extremely versatile, having featured in 6 different positions including striker, both wings and in centre mid. This means Tabata could cover for many people if an injury were to happen to anyone in the midfield 4 and maybe even the striker. Tabata's stats sound like those of world-class players, as he ranked 4th among the Liga NOS in assists with 8, which definitely weren't a fluke because he made the 3rd most key passes per 90 on an incredible 2.3. Leeds definitely need more sources of chances other than Hernandez, and Tabata can provide that. Some more underlying stats that could be game changers for Leeds is that Tabata makes 2.4 dribbles per 90, which ranks him 2nd in the Liga NOS. Often we see promoted sides find it difficult to transition the play from defence into attack and can't get out of their own half, but with a skill set like this, Tabata could progress the ball upfield by himself, easing the pressure off defenders. An attribute that generally comes alongside a player that dribbles a lot is that they get fouled very often, which Tabata does 2.8 times a game. For Leeds this could be a useful tool, as getting fouled can turn into a way to ease pressure off defenders if you get fouled inside your own half, or more importantly in a newly promoted side, a free kick could be one of your main sources of goals. To top off Tabata's incredible stats, he makes 2.3 crosses per 90, which would rank first in Leeds' side as they definitely lack an effective crosser of the ball. These stats already look world class, but whenever you consider Portimonense came in 17th, where creating chances and dribbling is much harder to do, Tabata's skill set is even more impressive. The 23-year-old is only currently valued at £3 million, so around a £5 million gamble would be worth it to see if he can translate his ability into the Premier League. Next up in defence, Leeds had the honour of having Ben White on loan from Brighton for the season, where he showed his ability and is now returned back to Brighton to possibly feature in the starting lineup. This means Leeds are now short of a great starting centre-back, and I think when a team is newly promoted to the Premier League, they need an experienced defender to marshal the back line that always knows what to do. For this reason, I think Bielsa should try get the recently relegated Steve Cook off Bournemouth, as he's been promoted to the Premier League before with Bournemouth and knows how to defend a newly promoted side. While in the Premier League, Cook has learned to sense danger, clearing the ball when necessary. In the past season, Cook cleared the ball 5.2 times per 90, leading the Bournemouth side. Cook's presence in the box would improve Leeds' backline tenfold. Despite not being the tallest centre-half around, Cook's aerial prowess is top tier. The 29-year-old wins 4 aerial duels per 90, the highest in the Bournemouth squad. This asset would really benefit Leeds, as it is noted down that aerial duels are a huge weakness in the side. Another sign that Cook has his head screwed on his shoulders is that he makes 1.5 interceptions per 90, which from centre-back is a relatively high number. When a centre-back makes an interception, odds are that they're stopping a pass that is threaded through on goal, so it's essential to have a centre-back like Cook in your squad that can snuff out danger before it even happens. Considering Bournemouth recently got relegated, and since Cook only has a year left on his contract, they can't exactly demand a high fee. I can imagine Cook being brought to Leeds for around £10 million, which would be great value for a team in need of a general like Leeds. With only £35 million spent, Leeds could afford to bolster their midfield with another addition. A newly promoted side like Leeds may struggle to regain possession at all, never mind high up the pitch, but when less dominant sides do regain possession high up the pitch, it's often one of the best chances for them to score. This is why we head over to Toulouse in France to hopefully get Ibrahim Sangare to sign for Leeds. The 3-capped Ivorian international is only 22, but is already looking like a talent you can rely on. Sangare is a defensive machine, making a whopping 5 tackles and interceptions per 90. Leeds will need some cover in front of their back line, as they will be called upon a lot more than last year in the Championship, and Sangare will ease the pressure off them before they're even needed. Other than defending, Sangare makes 1.1 key passes per 90 and dribbles past an opponent 1.2 times a game, showing he can also contribute going forward and in transition play. Sangare would work well in Leeds' counter-attacking side, as he makes 3.6 long balls per 90, which means he could set up a counter-attack with one swift pass. Sangare wouldn't cost an arm and a leg, considering Toulouse got relegated this season, and his market value is only around £10 million. The only thing stopping this transfer from happening is the competition around Europe for the player, as many teams will be in the running for his services. After these transfers have happened, this is what the 2021 Leeds starting 11 is looking like. In goal we have Casilla, in left back we have Stuart Dallas, in centre back we have Cooper and Cook, in right back we have Ayling, in holding midfielder we have Sangare, both centre mids being Phillips and Klitsch. On the left of midfield we have Jack Harrison, on the right Hernandez, and up top we have Ollie Watkins. With a squad like this and a skilled manager like Marcelo Bielsa, I could see Leeds finishing in around 15th, keeping themselves in the Premier League in the first season back in the big leagues. Keeping yourself in the Premier League is the hardest step in progressing your way to a top level side, and hopefully with the advice I suggest, Leeds can make that first step back to the great side they once were, competing head to head with Manchester United once again. Anyways, that's it for today guys. I hope you enjoyed my take on how Leeds could stay in the Prem this year. If you'd like to see me do this for another team, please let me know which team in the comment section down below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.
I feel like solo flying in the M Falcon. Come up, but I know I'll make it happen.